laughter hit him before the cards even touched the table. Not friendly laughter. Not the kind a man joins in. This kind stuck to the skin. Luke Morrison stood there, one hand braced against the poker table, the other still trembling from whiskey that had gone cold in his blood. The saloon lights burned low, smoke curling thick above the crowd that had gathered too close. Every eye was on him, every man waiting. Snake Eye Sullivan didn't rush. He never did. He laid his cards down one at a time. Queen, 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 queen. The room went still. Luke's breath caught halfway in his chest. For a moment he didn't move, didn't blink. Then the noise came back all at once. Boots stomping, men shouting, coins scraping across wood, and somewhere in the middle of it, Snake Eye's voice, smooth and quiet. You lost, Cowboy. Luke's fingers tightened on the edge of the table until his knuckles turned pale. He had walked in with $20. Now he had nothing. Nothing except a promise he couldn't take back. Snake Eye leaned back in his chair, cigar smoke drifting past his face. One condition, he reminded him softly. Luke didn't answer, didn't need to. Out here, a man's word wasn't talk. It was law. Snake Eye's smile stretched slow. You're getting married. The words didn't land right. Not at first. Luke blinked once, like he'd heard wrong. Then the room burst open again with laughter. Married, someone shouted. To who? Another called out. Snake Eye didn't look at them. His eyes stayed locked on Luke. To Amara Johnson, he said. The laughter shifted, not louder, sharper, ugly in a way that made Luke's stomach turn. He knew the name, everyone did. A widow out past Copper Creek, kept to herself. Worked land, most folks said, wasn't worth the trouble. Luke swallowed hard. You're joking. Snake Eye didn't smile this time. 3 days, he said. Or that land she's sitting on gets taken from her. Luke's jaw locked. His mind cleared all at once, like cold water thrown straight into his face. This wasn't a game. It never had been. He looked around the room. Men he'd ridden with, drank with. None of them met his eyes. They were enjoying it. Every second of it. Luke stepped back from the table. For a second, it looked like he might walk out. But he didn't, because leaving didn't change what had already been said. And out here, a man who broke his word didn't get a second chance. The church smelled like dust and old wood. Luke stood at the front, hands at his sides. Shoulders stiff beneath a shirt he had scrubbed clean that morning. No whiskey now, no blur. Just silence pressing in from all sides. The benches were full. Not with friends, with spectators, people who had come to watch. The door creaked open. Every head turned. She stepped inside without hesitation, Amara Johnson. Her dress was simple. Blue, worn but clean. Stitched careful, like someone who didn't waste anything. She walked steady. Not slow, not rushed, just steady. Luke's eyes followed her without meaning to. Up close, she looked different than he remembered. Stronger, not in size. In the way she held herself. Her shoulders didn't bend. Not for the room, not for the whispers. She stopped beside him, close enough that he could hear her breathing. It was even, controlled. Luke cleared his throat. I'm sorry, he said under his breath. She didn't look at him. We both know why we're here, she replied, no anger in it, no softness either. Just truth. The preacher rushed through the words. Skipped pauses, skipped meaning. When he asked if anyone objected, someone laughed from the back, loud enough to carry. No one stopped him. Luke kept his eyes forward, hands still, jaw tight. When the final words were spoken, the room clapped like it was a show. Like this was something to enjoy. Luke turned toward her. Their eyes met for the first time. Something passed between them. Not welcome, not rejection, recognition. Like two people standing in the same storm, he offered his arm. She hesitated. Just a second, then took it. The cabin door creaked when he pushed it open. Inside, the air held the faint smell of wood smoke and dry earth. One bed, one table, two chairs. Luke set the lantern down and lit it. Yellow light filled the room. "It's not much," he said. She stepped inside slowly, looked around once. "I've seen worse." Her voice was quieter now, not weaker, just different. She set her bag down near the wall. Didn't ask where anything was. Didn't wait for instruction. Just moved like she already knew how to make do. Luke rubbed the back of his neck. "I'll take the barn tonight." "No." He looked up. She was already shaking her head. "They're watching," she said, "waiting for us to fail." Luke let out a breath through his nose. "Then I'll take the floor." She didn't argue that. The silence stretched again, not as sharp as before, but still there. Luke grabbed a blanket and spread it near the stove. He could feel her moving behind him. Soft steps. Careful. When he lay down, the ceiling beams stared back at him in the dim light. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then her voice came through the dark. "Luke." He turned his head slightly. "Yeah, this may be forced," she said, "but I'm not." He nodded once, even though she couldn't see it. "I understand." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "We'll figure something out," he said. The words felt rough in his throat, uncertain, but real. Across the room, the bed creaked softly as she settled. "Good," she said. Outside, wind brushed against the walls, a low sound. Constant. Luke closed his eyes. The night didn't feel the same as before. Something had shifted. Not fixed, not settled, just changed. And somewhere in that small cabin, between a man who had lost everything and a woman who had been pushed into his life, something had started. Not trust, not yet, but something close enough to keep them both from walking away. The first shot came before the sun. A sharp crack that tore through the quiet. Luke's eyes snapped open. He was already moving before he understood why. Boots on, rifle in hand. By the time he reached the window, another shot rang out, closer. Amara was already there, not behind him, beside him. The shotgun rested steady in her hands, not shaking, not unsure. "Backside," she said, 2 words, clear. Luke nodded once and slipped toward the rear door. No wasted movement, no panic. Outside, the cold air hit hard. Gray light stretched across the land, just enough to see shapes moving near the barn. 3 riders, maybe 4. Horses shifting, restless. Luke dropped low, moving along the fence line. Inside the cabin, another blast echoed. "Amara," one of the riders cursed. Luke saw one man grab his shoulder, sliding from the saddle.
"Good shot."
Luke circled wide, kept the wind at his back, closed the distance. One man stood near the barn door, fumbling with something. Kerosene. Luke didn't hesitate. He raised the rifle and fired. The man dropped, screaming, clutching his leg. The others turned, too slow. Luke stepped out from cover. "Drop it," he said. His voice didn't rise, didn't need to. One of them reached for his gun. Luke fired again. The bullet hit dirt at his feet. Close enough. The man froze. Inside the cabin, another shot. Then silence. Heavy, thick. Luke kept the rifle trained. "Call them off." The wounded man groaned, dragging himself backward. Then the wind shifted. Fast. Hard. Luke felt it first, then heard it. A low roar building across the land. The horses reacted before the men did, snorting, pulling against reins. One of the riders turned toward the horizon. "Storm!" Luke followed his gaze. A wall of dust rolled toward them. Wide. Relentless. The men scrambled. No more threats, no more shouting. They ran for their horses, panic breaking whatever courage they had. Luke didn't chase, didn't fire. Nature was coming, and it didn't care who they were. He turned and ran for the cabin. Inside, Amara was already moving. They slammed the door just as the wind hit. The cabin shuddered. Dust forced its way through every crack. The light vanished. Luke grabbed her arm, pulling her down near the stove. The sound outside turned wild. Boards creaking, loose metal rattling. Something struck the side of the cabin hard enough to make the walls jump. Amara covered her face with her sleeve. Luke pressed his shoulder against the door, held it. The wind pushed back, relentless. For a long time, there was nothing else. No voices, no gunfire, just the storm. When it finally eased, the silence felt strange, unsteady. Luke let go of the door. His arms felt heavy. Amara lowered her hands. Dust covered everything, her face, her hair, but her eyes stayed sharp. "You hit one," Luke said. She nodded once. "You hit two." They stood there for a second, looking at each other, closer than before, closer than either of them expected. Then Luke stepped back. "We should check the animals." Outside, the land looked different. Dust piled against the cabin, fence half buried, but the barn still stood. The horses were inside, shaken, alive. Luke exhaled slowly. That could have gone worse. He turned. Amara stood near the doorway, brushing dirt from her sleeves. Her hands moved steady. No wasted motion. "You've done that before," he said. She didn't answer right away. "Then, my husband taught me." Luke nodded, didn't ask more. They worked the rest of the day without speaking much, fixing what they could, clearing what they couldn't. By the time the sun dropped low, both of them moved slower, tired, but still standing. They sat on the porch steps, no table between them, no walls, just open land stretching out in front. Luke rested his forearms on his knees. "You could left," he said. She glanced at him. During the storm, she shook her head. No, he didn't press, didn't need to. The wind carried a quiet sound across the plains. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, "Partner," she said. Luke looked at her. "What? You said it earlier," she added. "When we were working." Luke frowned slightly, then remembered. "Yeah." She nodded once. "That fits better." He leaned back slightly, let the words settle. Partner. It didn't feel wrong. Not anymore. The next morning they rode into town. Not because they wanted to, because they had to. Supplies, feed, things that couldn't wait. As they reached the main street, the whispers started. Soft at first, then louder. Luke felt it. Eyes on them. Judgment. Curiosity. Amara didn't slow, didn't lower her head. She rode straight, like none of it mattered. Inside the general store, conversation stopped. Every movement felt watched. Luke walked ahead, grabbed what they needed, set it on the counter. The shopkeeper hesitated, just long enough to be noticed. Then took the money. No words. Behind them, someone chuckled. Low, sharp. Luke's shoulders tightened. Before he could turn, Amara spoke. "Is there something you'd like to say?" Her voice didn't rise, didn't shake. The man looked away first. Luke glanced at her. She didn't look back. They finished quickly, left without rushing. Outside, Luke let out a breath. "You didn't have to do that." She adjusted the reins. "Yes," she said. "I did." They mounted up, started back. The road stretched quiet ahead of them. For a while, only the sound of hooves filled the space. Then Luke spoke. "When's the last time you ate properly?" She didn't answer, not right away. 3 days, she said finally. Luke's grip tightened on the reins. "You should said something." She kept her eyes forward. "I'm still here." He shook his head. "That's not the same." She didn't argue. Didn't agree either. Just kept riding. That night the cabin felt different. Not smaller, just fuller. Luke set 2 plates on the table. Simple food, nothing special, but enough. She sat across from him. For the first time, neither of them rushed. No tension pushing them apart, just quiet. Luke leaned back slightly. "You're not what I expected." She looked up. "What did you expect?" He thought for a moment, then shrugged. "Someone who'd hate me." She held his gaze. Then, "I did." The words landed soft, but they stayed. Luke nodded slowly. "Fair." She picked at the edge of the table, then looked up again. "Now?" He waited. She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Something had changed. Neither of them said it, but both of them felt it. Outside, the wind moved through the land again. Not as harsh as before, just enough to remind them where they were. Inside, two strangers sat across from each other, no longer just tied by a bet, but holding on to something neither of them had planned, and neither of them was ready to let go. The fire came at night, not from the stove, not from the lantern, from outside. Luke woke to the smell first, sharp, bitter, wrong. Then Amara's hand hit his shoulder. Luke, he was up before she finished his name. The window glowed orange, not sunrise, fire. They rushed outside. Flames climbed the haystack beside the barn. Dry grass fed it fast, too fast. Luke grabbed the first bucket he saw. Water sloshed over his boots as he ran. Amara didn't wait. She was already at the well, pulling, hauling, moving without pause. No shouting, no wasted breath, just work. Luke threw water against the base. Steam burst back at him. The fire snapped and pushed harder. Wind shifted. Closer to the barn. Too close. Again, he said. She didn't answer, just moved faster. Another bucket, another throw. Boots hit dirt behind them. More people, neighbors. Men grabbing buckets, women forming a line. Water moving hand to hand. No orders needed. Everyone knew. If the barn went, everything went. The fire fought them, cracked, spat, tried to spread, but they held it, slowly, relentless. The flames shrank, then broke, then died. Smoke curled into the night. Luke stood there, chest rising hard, hands blackened, eyes stinging. Amara stepped beside him. Soot marked her face, her hair loose from the wind, but she stood straight, like always. Tom Patterson walked up, wiping his hands. That wasn't an accident. Luke didn't ask how he knew. He already did. Amara looked at the burned ground, then at Luke. He won't stop. Luke nodded. No. Silence settled around them, heavy but not empty, because this time they weren't alone. The next morning the cabin filled, not with fear, with people, farmers, families, men who had been quiet before, women who had watched from a distance. Now all of them stood inside the same room. Luke leaned against the wall, arms crossed, listening. Amara stood near the table. Not at the front, not above anyone, but when she spoke, the room stilled. He counts on us being separate, she said. He counts on fear doing his work. No one interrupted. He takes one piece at a time, she continued, until nothing is left. A man near the door shifted. What do we do then? Amara looked around the room, met each pair of eyes. We stopped standing alone. The words settled. Luke watched it happen, watched doubt turn. Slow, but real. Tom stepped forward. I'm in. Another voice followed. Me too, then another, and another, until the room wasn't quiet anymore. It was decided, not written, not signed, but understood they would stand together. Days passed, hard ones. Luke wrote out more, talking, convincing, standing in places where he used to keep his head down. Now he didn't. Now he looked men in the eye, and didn't step back. Amara worked differently. Not on horseback, not with a rifle, but with words, with records, with plans. She wrote everything down. Names, threats, dates. Nothing forgotten. Nothing lost. At night they sat together, not across the table anymore. Side by side, the distance between them gone, replaced by something steady, something built. The next attack didn't wait for dark. It came in daylight. Hooves on dry ground, 6 riders, straight toward the cabin. No hiding, no pretending. Luke stepped outside, rifle already in hand. Amara followed, shotgun resting against her shoulder. The riders stopped short, dust settling around them. At the front, Jeremiah Hawthorne, older, well-dressed, but his eyes, cold, calculating. You've caused trouble, he said. Luke didn't answer. Didn't need to. You've gathered people, Hawthorne continued. Made noise. Amara stepped forward slightly. People don't stay quiet forever. Hawthorne looked at her, long, unpleasant. You think that changes anything? She held his gaze. It already has. For a moment, no one moved. Then, a sound. Behind the ridge, hooves more than before. Hawthorne turned, so did his men. Over the hill. Riders appeared. 1, then 3, then 10. Farmers, neighbors, men who had stood in that cabin. Now standing here, not scattered. Together, Tom Patterson at the front. Rifle raised. Hawthorne's jaw tightened. The balance had shifted. He saw it. Everyone did. He pulled his reins hard. "This isn't finished," he said. Luke stepped forward. "Then come back when it is." Hawthorne stared at him, then turned, rode off without another word. His men followed. Dust swallowed them. Gone. The land felt quieter after that. Not safe. Not yet, but different. Like something had broken. Or maybe something had finally held. That night, the cabin doors stayed open longer. The air cooler, the sky wide. Luke sat on the step, Amara beside him, no weapons in hand for once. "You could have walked away," he said. She glanced at him. "You already asked me that." He shook his head slightly. "I mean now." She looked out across the land, long, quiet. Then no. He studied her face. The way the firelight touched her skin. The way she didn't look away. Why? She didn't answer right away. Then she turned, met his eyes. "Because I'm not standing here alone anymore." The words stayed between them, heavy, real. Luke let out a slow breath, then reached for her hand. Didn't rush, gave her time. She didn't pull away. Their fingers closed, natural, like it had always been that way. Inside, the lamp flickered softly. Outside, the wind moved through the grass. Luke stood slowly, pulled her with him. Not force, not demand. Just invitation. She stepped closer, close enough that he could feel her breath. Neither spoke. Didn't need to, because whatever this was, it wasn't forced anymore. Luke leaned in, slow, careful. Giving her every chance to step back, she didn't. Their lips met, soft at first, then steady, then real. No crowd watching, no laughter, no bet, just two people who had fought, stewed, stayed. When they pulled apart, the world felt quieter. Not empty, just settled for a moment. Luke rested his forehead against hers. "We're not done," he said. She shook her head slightly, no. But she didn't step away, didn't let go. Somewhere out in the dark, a horse moved. A sound carried on the wind. Something coming, or something waiting. Luke turned his head slightly, listening, then looked back at her. Their hands still locked together, and for the first time, neither of them felt like running.